Melissa Ann Hortman was born on May 27, 1970, in Fridley, Minnesota, and grew up in the suburban communities of Spring Lake Park and Andover. From an early age, she was deeply rooted in the values of public service and community care. Whether it was volunteering with the Girl Scouts, teaching Sunday school, or helping out in local schools, Melissa demonstrated the kind of empathy and civic responsibility that would later define her political career. Academically gifted and driven, she pursued her undergraduate studies at Boston University, majoring in political science and philosophy, and graduating magna cum laude. Her passion for public service took her to Washington, D.C., where she interned for then-Senator Al Gore in 1991 and Senator John Kerry in 1992. These early experiences exposed her to the practical workings of government and policymaking and deepened her conviction that meaningful change came from within the system. Returning to her home state, Melissa enrolled at the University of Minnesota Law School, earning her JD in 1995. Her early legal career included roles as a law clerk and as an assistant county attorney. She achieved recognition for winning a significant housing discrimination case in 1997, one of the largest civil rights victories in Minnesota at the time. Her legal work was not just a profession, it was a calling to ensure equity and fairness under the law. Melissa balanced professional life with community engagement, raising a family while actively volunteering on nonprofit boards and local initiatives. In 2004, she decided to take her advocacy further by running for a seat in the Minnesota House of Representatives. She won and began serving in 2005, representing a district that included parts of Brooklyn Park and Coon Rapids. For 2 decades, Melissa Hortman worked tirelessly in the Minnesota House, steadily climbing the ranks from Assistant Majority Leader to Speaker of the House. She was not a loud or flashy politician, but she was known for being strategic, thoughtful, and deeply committed to her constituents. Her work focused on issues that touch people's lives directly: transportation, education, clean energy, public safety, and democracy. One of her earliest legislative achievements was advocating for the North Star commuter rail line, which brought essential transit access to Minnesota's northern suburbs. As chair of the House Energy Policy Committee, she played a crucial role in passing the state's solar energy standard and community solar programs, establishing Minnesota as a leader in renewable energy innovation. In education, she supported universal free lunch programs for students and pushed for more affordable access to higher education. Her advocacy for paid family leave was a long-standing mission aimed at supporting working families. In matters of public safety, she championed red flag laws and comprehensive background checks for gun purchases, driven by the increasing number of mass shootings across the nation. Her leadership was especially notable in times of crisis. After the murder of George Floyd in 2020, Hortman helped pass critical police reform measures, including bans on chokeholds, restrictions on no-knock warrants, and mandatory data transparency in use-of-force cases. Though the reforms did not satisfy all sides, she remained firm in pursuing what she believed to be balanced, justice-driven policy. Throughout her tenure, she maintained bipartisan respect. Even when political tides shifted, Melissa found ways to collaborate. In 2023, she successfully negotiated a shared power structure in a split legislature. That kind of pragmatic leadership made her one of Minnesota's most effective political figures. Tragically, her life and work came to a violent end on June 14, 2025. In the early morning hours, Melissa and her husband Mark were fatally shot in their Brooklyn Park home. The attack was not random. It was part of a series of politically motivated assaults on public officials. Just hours earlier, State Senator John Hoffman and his wife had been shot and critically wounded in a similar incident at their home in Champlin. The suspect, Vance Boelter, was later identified as a former security director who impersonated law enforcement to carry out these attacks. In his vehicle, police found a hit list that included nearly 70 elected officials, most of whom were affiliated with progressive or liberal causes. Investigators determined the attacks to be acts of targeted political violence. The state of Minnesota was plunged into shock. The Capitol flew flags at half-staff. Emergency legislative sessions were suspended. Leaders across party lines expressed outrage and grief. Governor Tim Walz called the killing an attack on democracy itself. Senator Amy Klobuchar mourned the loss of a colleague she described as compassionate and tireless. Even those who had disagreed with her politically recognized the gravity of the moment. What made the tragedy even more chilling was how deeply it connected to Melissa's lifelong warnings about the toxic nature of political polarization. She had often spoken out against the rise of political threats and intimidation. In 2021, she led a resolution in the Minnesota House condemning the January 6th insurrection and called for the preservation of democratic norms and civil discourse. That her life was later taken in an act of anti-democratic violence feels like a cruel irony and a grim vindication of her fears. Melissa's legacy endures in the legislation she helped pass and the tone she set. Her leadership style was not combative, but she was never afraid to stand firm on principle. She believed in progress that helped real people: clean air, safe neighborhoods, strong public schools, and fair opportunity for all. She was a master of the political process, but never lost her grounding in the everyday needs of her constituents. The consequences of her death have extended far beyond personal mourning. Lawmakers are now re-evaluating security protocols. Discussions are underway about increasing protections for public servants and responding more forcefully to the rise of extremist threats. A renewed urgency surrounds the fight to preserve civility and safety in public service. If there is any silver lining to such a senseless act, it's that it has reignited efforts to protect the democratic process she gave her life to defend. Melissa Hortman wasn't a household name nationwide, but in Minnesota, she represented the best of what state leadership could be: thoughtful, brave, effective. Her tragic death reminds us of how fragile democracy can be and how much we depend on people like her to sustain it. Her memory will live on not just in speeches or plaques, but in the clean energy laws, the safer schools, and the fairer policies she helped bring into existence. In remembering Melissa Hortman, we remember a life of integrity, intelligence, and unwavering public service. Her story is now part of the larger American story, of a nation grappling with its political divisions and searching for leaders who can rise above them. She was such a leader, and her loss is a wound not only for Minnesota, but for the country at large.